What do you get when you mix America's most unassuming clean comedian with one of the most polarizing figures in modern pop culture? Answer: the kind of unscripted, jaw-dropping TV moment that has the entire internet buzzing. On the glittering stage of the 2025 Emmy Awards, under a canopy of flashing cameras and million-dollar gowns, comedian Nate Bargatze delivered a roast so sharp, so unexpected, and so perfectly timed that it immediately eclipsed every other moment of the night. The target? None other than Meghan Markle, the Duchess-turned-Hollywood fixture, who was seated comfortably in the front row. But before we continue, please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more updates. And in just a few words, Bargatze managed to do what tabloids, royal biographers, and late-night talk show hosts have been trying to do for years: reduce Meghan Markle's carefully curated image to a punchline, calling her, point-blank, an entitled princess. The audience gasped. Some laughed nervously. Others roared with approval. Meghan? Well, let's just say her reaction is already the stuff of meme history. But here's the question. How did we get here? Why did Nate Bargatze, known for his dry, family-friendly style, decide to unload one of the biggest comedic haymakers of his career on Meghan Markle, live at the Emmys? And why did the internet practically break in half as a result? Buckle up, because this isn't just an award show recap. It's a story of fame, friction, and the unpredictable power of comedy in the age of celebrity culture. Meghan Markle, Hollywood's most controversial guest. Before we even dive into Bargatze's comedic grenade, let's take a moment to talk about Meghan Markle's presence at the Emmys. For starters, it wasn't exactly a surprise that she showed up. Since stepping back from her royal duties in 2020, Meghan has worked tirelessly to position herself as a Hollywood power player. Producer, activist, podcaster, speaker, you name it. Whether you love her or loathe her, she knows how to stay in the spotlight. But here's where things get tricky. Meghan's appearances often stir up more debate than admiration. For some, she's a woman who dared to break away from royal tradition and forge her own path. For others, she's a walking contradiction. Someone who left the monarchy citing a desire for privacy, only to embrace cameras, talk shows, and red carpet events at every opportunity. So when Meghan walked into the Emmys in a glittering gown that many critics later called royalty cosplay, you could practically hear the collective eye roll from certain corners of the internet. Still, most people expected a smooth, predictable night. After all, the Emmys are about television, not royal drama. That is, until Nate Bargatze grabbed the microphone. Nate Bargatze, the comedian nobody saw coming. If you don't know Nate Bargatze, you're missing out on one of comedy's best-kept, and now rapidly spreading secrets. Unlike the edgy, boundary-pushing comics who thrive on controversy, Nate's reputation is built on the exact opposite. He's the nice guy of stand-up. Think dad jokes with better timing. Think Southern charm mixed with dry wit. Think observational comedy that sneaks up on you like a slow-burning firework. So when Bargatze was announced as the host of the 2025 Emmy Awards, some people scratched their heads. Could a guy who usually jokes about losing his keys or struggling with technology really handle the glitz, glamour, and politics of Hollywood's biggest night? As it turns out, not only could he handle it, he could completely dominate it. Because the brilliance of Bargatze lies in his unpredictability. He doesn't look like a guy who's about to throw a verbal grenade. But when he does, the impact is 10 times stronger. Which brings us back to Meghan Markle, the moment that stole the show. Picture it. The Emmy stage glows with a soft golden light. Bargatze, in his understated suit, strolls across the stage with his usual easygoing energy. He smiles, tells a couple of harmless jokes about the length of the ceremony, then casually glances toward the front row. There she is, Meghan Markle, radiant, camera ready, sitting exactly where every comedian knows the safest target usually sits. And then Bargatze drops it. So great to see Meghan Markle here tonight. He begins, his voice calm, even cheerful. You know, Hollywood royalty sitting among us. Or should I say, our very own entitled princess. Boom. The room erupts. Some gasp. Some choke on their champagne. Some clap harder than they've clapped all night. And Meghan, the The cameras catch her frozen smile, the kind of tight-lipped expression that says, "If I react, I lose. But oh, I want to react." It wasn't just a joke. It was a cultural moment, a shift in the narrative. Suddenly, Meghan wasn't in control of the spotlight. She was the butt of it. Why the joke hit so hard? Here's the thing about comedy. The funniest jokes are often the ones that cut closest to the truth. Bargatze didn't invent the label entitled for Meghan Markle. Critics, tabloids, and even some former royal staffers have been tossing that word around for years. What made Bargatze's delivery so devastating was that it landed on a stage Meghan clearly wanted to own. Think about it. Meghan has spent years carefully controlling her image, from Netflix documentaries to Oprah interviews. She's tried to position herself as a victim, a survivor, a humanitarian, a Hollywood insider. But in that single moment, Bargatze collapsed all those identities into a punchline that stuck. And let's be real, America loves nothing more than seeing someone who seems untouchable get roasted. The internet reacts. Memes, mayhem, and mixed feelings. Within seconds of Bargatze's line, Twitter or X, depending on what you call it these days, exploded. Some users couldn't stop laughing, calling it the most honest thing ever said at an awards show. Others rushed to Meghan's defense, accusing Bargatze of crossing a line and disrespecting a woman who has endured more than her fair share of criticism. And then there were the memes. Oh, the memes. Side-by-side screenshots of Meghan's frozen smile next to cartoon characters, captions about princess privilege, and gifs of Nate Bargatze casually sipping water like he didn't just throw a live grenade into the middle of Hollywood. It wasn't just a joke anymore. It was a viral sensation. And here's the kicker. Love it or hate it, everyone was talking about it. Which, ironically, is exactly the kind of attention Meghan Markle has always seemed to attract. Curiosity gap. What happens next? So where does this leave us? Was Nate Bargatze's joke just a funny one-liner, destined to fade once the next Hollywood scandal breaks? Or did he accidentally spark a cultural shift in how Meghan Markle is perceived in the entertainment world? Because here's the thing, comedy has power. It can take years of carefully crafted image building and undo it in a single sentence. And if Meghan thought she was attending the Emmys to polish her Hollywood credentials, she may have walked out instead with a new label she'll never quite shake off. But that's just the beginning. Because behind the laughter, behind the memes, and behind the viral moment lies a bigger question. Why does Meghan Markle continue to ignite such strong reactions? And why was the Emmy stage the perfect place for this showdown to happen? Meghan Markle's Hollywood reinvention. To understand why Bargatze's entitled princess jab hit with the force of a thunderclap, you first have to look at Meghan's long, complicated relationship with Hollywood. Before she ever became a duchess, Meghan was already hustling on the fringes of fame. From brief TV guest roles to her breakthrough as Rachel Zane on Suits, she was clawing her way into an industry that's notorious for eating people alive. And then, of course, she met Prince Harry. That marriage wasn't just a love story. It was a career pivot. Overnight, Meghan went from working actress with a lifestyle blog to the most talked about woman on the planet. Paparazzi swarmed. Tabloids obsessed. Brands drooled. But here's the twist. Instead of settling into royal life, Meghan decided to rewrite the script. By stepping back from royal duties, she and Harry presented themselves as modern rebels, ready to build a new empire from the glittering soil of Hollywood. Netflix deals, podcasts, high-profile interviews, activism, public speaking. On paper, it all made sense. America loves a comeback story. We love people who carve out their own destiny. But in practice, Meghan's Hollywood rebrand was anything but smooth. Why? Because in Hollywood, perception is everything. And Meghan's perception problem was about to run headfirst into Nate Bargatze's deadpan delivery. Why comedy cuts deeper than criticism? Here's something most celebrities forget. You can survive criticism. You can survive rumors. You can even survive scandals. But being roasted? That's different. Comedy doesn't just highlight flaws, it cements them. Think about it. Politicians spend millions on image consultants, but one late-night sketch can undo them in a heartbeat. Remember Tina Fey's Sarah Palin impression? Celebrities try to curate their every move, but one well-timed roast line can redefine them forever. And here's why: laughter is sticky. When people laugh at a joke about you, that association lodges in their brain. They may never remember the details of your Netflix documentary, but they'll always remember that time you were called an entitled princess on live TV. That's what happened to Meghan. Bargatze didn't just insult her. He rewired the way millions of viewers will think of her moving forward. And the irony? Meghan has always tried to control her narrative with carefully scripted interviews and polished media appearances. Yet it was unscripted comedy, something she couldn't control, that may have had the final word. The Emmy Awards as a cultural battleground. Let's pause for a second and ask, why did this moment happen at the Emmys, of all places? After all, the Emmys are supposed to celebrate television, not serve as a royal roast. But if you look closer, it makes perfect sense. Hollywood award shows have always doubled as cultural mirrors. They're where fashion, politics, celebrity, and public opinion collide under bright lights. Whether it's Marlon Brando refusing his Oscar, Kanye interrupting Taylor Swift, or Ricky Gervais torching everyone in the room at the Golden Globes, award shows are where big cultural shifts sneak in. So when Meghan Markle, the most polarizing figure in modern celebrity, took her seat at the 2025 Emmys, the stage was already set. All it needed was the right host to strike the match. And Nate Bargatze, with his unassuming style, was the perfect arsonist. Meghan's reaction. The smile that said everything. Let's talk about Meghan's face. Because honestly, it told a whole story in 5 seconds. The moment Bargatze said, "entitled princess," cameras zoomed in on her expression, and that frozen smile, tight, practiced, polite, became the image of the night. It wasn't anger exactly. It wasn't amusement either. It was something in between. The look of someone who knows the world is watching and refuses to let the mask slip, even when every fiber of her being wants to scream. And that's what made it go viral. Because audiences love authenticity, even when it's messy. And Meghan's smile wasn't polished. It was human. It said, "I hate this. I can't show it. But oh, do I hate this?" Compare that to how other celebrities have handled roasts. Some laugh along and win the crowd. Others overreact and become punchlines themselves. Meghan's middle ground reaction made her look trapped, which only fueled the narrative Bargatze had just painted. The divide. Supporters versus critics. Of course, the internet immediately split into two camps. Camp 1. Finally, someone said it. These were the people who felt Bargatze had voiced what they'd been thinking for years. To them, Meghan epitomized entitlement, cashing in on royal connections while playing the victim card. For these folks, Bargatze wasn't cruel. He was honest. Camp 2. This was too far. On the flip side, Meghan's defenders argued that she's been unfairly targeted for years. They saw the joke as kicking someone who's already been hounded relentlessly by the press. For them, Bargatze was just feeding a toxic cycle of Meghan bashing. The beauty and danger of comedy is that it doesn't care which camp you're in. You laughed or you didn't, but either way you remembered. Behind the scenes, did Bargatze plan it? Now here's a juicy question. Was this all premeditated? Award show hosts usually rehearse their material. Producers often screen jokes in advance to avoid PR disasters. Which begs the question, did Bargatze sneak this one in, or did the Emmy producers know exactly what was coming? Some insiders have whispered that Bargatze had been testing Meghan material in smaller comedy clubs for months, gauging audience reactions. Others insist it was a spur-of-the-moment decision, a classic case of a comedian reading the room and going for it. If it was pre-approved, it suggests Hollywood itself is cooling on Meghan, letting Bargatze say what executives wouldn't dare say outright. If it wasn't, it shows the raw, unpredictable power of live comedy. Either way, Meghan found herself on the receiving end of a joke she couldn't edit, spin, or walk away from. Why Meghan keeps attracting these moments. At this point, you might be wondering, why Meghan? Why does she attract moments like this again and again? Part of it is simple. She's polarizing. To her supporters, She's a trailblazer who broke free from an outdated institution. To her critics, she's a master manipulator who plays the victim while chasing fame. But beyond that, Meghan embodies a contradiction that comedians can't resist. She claims to want privacy, yet she constantly steps back into the spotlight. She rejects the monarchy, yet continues to embrace the trappings of royalty. She talks about authenticity, yet seems meticulously scripted. Contradiction is the lifeblood of comedy. And Meghan has more contradictions than almost any other celebrity alive today. That's why Bargatze's line landed. Not because it was mean-spirited, but because it distilled years of contradictions into one sharp, unforgettable phrase.